Hello, everyone. So, are these entries into inquiry assisting you in discovering or uncovering anything? Good. At that point, then, there's a choice. Either this just becomes another process, or another interesting weekend where you get some insights about your patterns or get a glimpse of what's under the insight, or you actually use that inquiry to plunge your consciousness all the way down into the basic wound, into the basic cut of separation. It's called ego. It's called ego, which means I am. It's the I am thought. But it's not just a thought. It's a bundle of energy. And it's miserable energy. It's energy that is intolerable just in itself because it's cut off from the truth. It's limited in its scope. And it's located in a body. And let's assume it's a necessary step in evolution so that the body could survive or the species could survive. But the species has more than survived. And so now, let's assume skillfully that it's actually necessary to retrace the steps to see where the original mistake, the original sin. Sin actually means mistake. Where is that original mistake? And is it at the core of identification? And so everything we play in here, or everything that you point to or I point to is always, or can always be, used as a trap door, as an opening into a region that has been avoided at all cost, because it's known to be an abyss. And everything of identity is built on top of that. But you wouldn't be here if you weren't at least somewhat, and most of you very much, dissatisfied with what's built on top and disillusioned with it. And somehow a recognition that this abyss still keeps showing its head, in Hydra-like head in many different ways. And so of course we go to more and more groups and more modalities and more traditions to try to get relief from that. The great benefit for me in calling out to the universe after I recognized I had really done whatever I knew to do, and still there was this force of suffering that was alive in me. The benefit of that prayer was that it brought me to a teacher who said, stop everything. And when I understood really what that meant, it meant stop trying to escape. Stop trying to be somebody. Stop trying to get away. Stop trying to survive. Stop trying to be safe. Stop trying to get something. Stop trying to keep something away. It actually means be still. But the mind hears be still and corrupts it into a meditation practice, as valuable as meditation practices are, and they are extremely valuable. But that's not what this is. It's not a practice. It's a moment of the deepest inquiry into the mechanism that's running the show. And in order to inquire into that mechanism, there has to be a willingness for the show to stop. And that's rare, or has been rare. It needn't be rare, but it has been rare, because we have relied on the show to give us what it is we think we want. until we reach a level of maturity where we recognize the show is hollow. And everyone in this room has gotten enough of the show. You may still want more, but you've gotten enough to know it's hollow. And that's extraordinary. That means you aren't starving. You aren't under immediate threat of some attack. Whatever you think of your government, it still allows you to actually meet and speak the truth in the way you see it. So this is an enormous privilege that in any moment could disappear. You know, a natural disaster could hit and you could all be facing starvation. We could all be facing starvation very quickly. Water supplies could be gone. As you know, in the world it happens very quickly. So it is such a privilege that we have this moment, and we don't know how long the moment is. But we do have this moment of rare privilege of just the privilege of being able to take these days off from your regular life to inquire really deeply into the lie, into the truth that is under the lie. It's under each lie. The truth is alive. It really hasn't gone anywhere. So what you make of these days, or what you make of this week, or what you make of this inquiry, this is the real meaning. It can and often and maybe will be just another wonderfully interesting period. But it also can deliver you to the depths of the abyss, which opens up to reveal the eternal presence of home, of truth, of no possibility ever of disconnection. Whatever the feeling, whatever the event, whatever the state, whatever the level of evolvement, physically, mentally, emotionally, it's irrelevant. So that's why I take very seriously our meetings. And I'm happy when they are delightful and light and fresh, and they are. They will be, I promise we'll get there. But under all of that is this depth of seriousness of what is your life about? What an opportunity you have for your life, even if you have one day left in your life. For this life to be the radiance that is at its core. And to consciously recognize that. Because it is there, whether you consciously recognize it or not. I mean, it's there in the flowers. Do they consciously recognize it? Maybe some do, maybe some don't. I don't know. But it is the animating force, and as a human being already, there is a privilege in the developed brain and the capacity to reflect and remember and play back and see moments of choice, moments of lying, moments of truth, and inquire deeper to see and experience the motivation, which must be based on something about survival, finally. And under that, the absolute willingness in this moment to die, to face death. Not wanting to die, not wanting to face death. Just the willingness to face what is inevitable for every form. That's the law of this universe so far. Maybe we're working on rewriting it, but at this point, that's the law. And it's very useful. It's precious that each form is subject to death. Because that then is an opportunity to really, really discover what isn't subject to birth or death. And it's your time to discover that. And it's your choice. And it's your choice to give everything to that discovery, or keep some back, or trivialize it, or say yes, or say maybe. It's all your choice. It's choiceless that it has arisen in you, that somehow you, and not your neighbor or your sister or your brother or whoever, somehow it arose in you. It called you somehow, whether you wanted it to or didn't want it to, whether you thought it was craziness or whether you thought it was enlightenment. It's a mystery. Maybe it's random. My teacher, Papaji, said it's just good luck, that's all. It's good luck. Just doesn't feel good for most of your life. Because it's not normal. It doesn't look like what you thought good luck would look like. You thought it would go away if you fed it enough stuff, or accomplishments, or successes, or self-esteem, but it won't go away until you meet it all the way. And so my role in your life is absolutely not to make you more comfortable in escaping your good luck, but to assist you in diving into it until you drown in it, until you just are the luck itself. And that's what our exercises are for, and that's what our conversations are for, and that's what our meeting is for, really. If we're being superficial, that's what it's about. If we're being deep, that's what it's about. If we're laughing, if we're crying, if it's exciting, if it's tedious, it's all about that. If we're being normal, ordinary, if we're being extraordinary with Shakti, it's all about that, all of it. Nothing excluded. We're happy in our relationships, we're sad in our relationships, it's all about that. Successful, failing, all about that. Everything is a vehicle. And everything can be turned away from. That's where free will comes in, and free willingness. And mostly we've used our free will to turn into safety and protection, because it is so huge to recognize that we are nothing. Really huge. I mean, it sounds good till you get close to it. And then it's like, oh no, really? Really nothing. And the mind immediately equates that with non-existence. It's not a correct equation, but that's what the mind does, of course. Nothing equals non-existence. If I am nothing, if I'm not somebody, that therefore means I do not exist. The truth is, what doesn't exist is who you think you are. It doesn't exist. It's all a lie. The good parts and the bad parts. And who you think everybody else is, too. It's all made up. It's the power of imagination. And it's wondrous in its own right. But regarding the truth of the matter, it doesn't in reality exist. And because of our identification with who we think we are, we assume if that doesn't exist, then I doesn't exist. But I is in fact existence. That all of the stories and the forms and the made-upness appear and disappear in. And so when the form of you disappears, I remains. When you recognize who you are, you know your form that you call I will disappear, and you remain, not as a floating entity. That's not what I'm talking about. I mean as what remains when you're gone. As consciousness itself, as life itself. And it's your time to directly discover this. What a miracle. I mean, that's what I feel like. So it's like somehow I got in the door, like, sneaked in or something, or wandered into the wrong room, and all of a sudden, there it was. It's like, wow. Because I didn't deserve it. I'm sure if you tell the truth, you'll see you don't deserve it. Really, finally. So it's not about deservability. It is this mystery that somehow has appeared choicelessly in your lives with the invitation to choose. And it's big. And it demands everything. And it takes everything. And it leaves nothing. Nothing. And that nothing is worth losing everything for. Someone was up here speaking about, enlightenment would be, I can't remember what you said. Something like wonderful. Like some kind of state, yogic state. That's a yogic state. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm not a yogi. Really, at all. I could use some yoga. I'm not talking about that, as beautiful as that is, as all yogic states are. I'm speaking about what exists before any state, and during every state, and after any state is gone. And that's the truth of who you are, not the truth of who you think you are, which appears and disappears and mutates and transforms and changes and is high or low, or bright or dull, or open or closed. You follow me? Good. I can only take you so far. I take you to the edge of the abyss, and I can push. Or say, oh, come, come. But really, that's a waste of my energy. It's just because I'm, like to play the role. It's really up to you. And it's just a stopping. Without even knowing what you're doing, stopping. And then seeing what you're doing and stopping. And then stopping deeper. And then stopping the inclination to say, well, now I stopped, now what? And on and on and on until it finally hits